The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Across hundreds of human-controlled trade routes, ships were stopping. Merchants argued. Workers panicked. And in the middle of it all, Captain Jaxon Rell stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Starfire, staring at the blinking message that had just arrived. All human ships are now subject to the Empire's galactic tax. Payment is due immediately, or your vessel will be seized. Jaxon ran a hand through his messy hair. He had expected trouble from the Empire before, but this was different. A tax on human ships. In the middle of trade season. The message left no room for negotiation, no excuses. Entire fleets could be grounded, and the galaxy's human trade could collapse overnight. Unbelievable, muttered Lieutenant Mara, his second-in-command, her eyes wide as she read the message over his shoulder. They can't do this. Not to everyone at once. They just did, Jaxon replied, voice steady but tense. He knew the Empire had power, but he also knew one thing: humans were never meant to bow quietly. As the ship drifted through space toward the nearest trade hub, Jaxon thought about what the Empire wanted. A tax like this was not just money, it was control. Every human merchant, every freighter, every small trading ship would now be at the mercy of alien bureaucrats. And if they refused, their ships would be taken, their crews imprisoned, and their families left helpless. At the hub, chaos ruled. Merchants shouted at officials, trying to bargain. Some ships were already being tagged with seizure markers, bright red lights flashing across their hulls. Traders were panicking, unsure if they could pay the sudden demand. Jaxon's eyes scanned the crowd. He noticed a young pilot, barely 20, shaking as he argued with an alien tax officer. His cargo of rare minerals could make or break his career, but the officer showed no mercy. Jaxon felt a pang of anger. This was wrong. Humans had built this galaxy with their work, their courage, their risks, and now they were being punished for it. Captain, Mara said, her voice low. What do we do? Jackson's jaw tightened. We fight, he said simply. The word sounded small, almost impossible, but in Jackson's mind, the plan was already forming. The Empire thought humans would pay quietly. They thought we would bow. But they had forgotten one thing: humans never followed rules that made no sense. He summoned his communications officer. Send a message to the fleet. Tell them no one pays the tax. Not now, not ever. The officer's eyes widened. Captain, that's rebellion. Call it what you want, Jaxon replied. It's survival. As the message transmitted, a strange feeling filled the Starfire. Somewhere in the Empire, the aliens were already noticing. Reports started coming in of ships ignoring the tax, small human fleets refusing to comply. Panic rippled through the Empire's offices. For every ship that paid, 10 refused. For every fleet they tried to seize, another appeared to block them. And then came the warning. A second encrypted message, marked urgent. Captain Jaxon Rell. You are hereby commanded to comply. Refusal will be met with immediate military action. This is your only warning. Jaxon read it slowly, then smiled. Mara looked at him, unsure if it was fear or hope she saw in his expression. They think one captain can be scared. One ship can't change anything. That's exactly why I'm going to do it. For the first time that day, the tension on the Starfire eased slightly. The impossible tax was a challenge, yes, but one humans had faced before. And like always, they would find a way. Jaxon turned toward the viewport, watching the stars streak past as they prepared to jump to hyperspace. Somewhere ahead, the Empire's fleet was waiting, and somewhere behind, human traders were looking for someone brave enough to fight. Captain Jaxon Rell had no plan to pay. He had a plan to survive, and to turn the galaxy upside down. As the Starfire moved toward the unknown, one thing was certain: the Empire had never seen a human fight like this before. And for Jaxon, the fight had only just begun. The starfire slipped through the darkness of space like a shadow. Captain Jaxon Rell's eyes were sharp, scanning the holographic maps on his console. The Empire thought it had control, but humans had something the aliens could never understand: daring. Jackson's plan was simple, but dangerous. He would strike first. Not with fleets, not with firepower, but with intelligence and speed. Somewhere in the Empire's tax station, hundreds of ships waited, ready to seize human cargo. If he could disable even a few, panic would spread, giving humans a chance to fight back. Course plotted, Captain, said Mara, her fingers flying over the controls. We can reach the tax station undetected in 3 standard minutes. Good, Jaxon said. We need to make this fast and clean. 1 strike, 1 warning, and back out before they know what hit them. As they approached the station, red lights flashed across the starfire sensors. Patrol drones. Hundreds of them. The Empire had thought this area secure. They had thought no human could breach their defenses. Jaxon smirked. They've never met humans like us. The first strike was almost ceremonial in its precision. The starfire's small attack pod slipped past the patrols, docking with the station's main fuel lines. With a few quick commands, Jaxon triggered a controlled explosion. Fire and smoke filled the station's outer hull, but no one on the starfire was harmed. Alarm sirens blared. Red lights bathed the interior of the tax station. Alien officers ran from control rooms, shouting orders in strange, harsh languages. But it was too late. 1 strike had already sent waves of confusion through the station. Ships were trapped. Systems failed. The Empire realized, too late, that 1 human ship had caused chaos. Mara leaned back, exhaling slowly. That was amazing. Just the beginning, Jaxon replied. His eyes glowed with determination. We've sent a message: humans will not pay. But then, the unexpected happened. A shadow moved across the sensors, a massive alien destroyer appeared, larger and faster than anything Jaxon had seen. The Empire had been watching. They had prepared for 1 ship, but not one that dared to strike so boldly. Lieutenant! Jaxon shouted. Evasive maneuvers, now! The starfire twisted and dove through asteroid fields, dodging the destroyer's energy beams. Every shot missed by inches. Crew hearts pounded. The station behind them was still burning, sending debris into space like deadly meteors. Jackson's mind raced. 1 wrong move, and they would be destroyed. But retreat meant losing momentum, and if humans hesitated, the Empire would tighten its grip forever. Captain, I've found something, Mara said, pointing to the console. The destroyer's shield systems, there's a weak point near the engine core. If we hit it. Jackson's eyes narrowed. Then we hit it. Now, Mara. A tense silence fell over the bridge. The starfire surged forward, small cannons firing at the precise spot Mara indicated. A bright explosion rocked the destroyer. Sparks flew. Systems went offline. The massive ship began drifting, powerless, as the human ship slipped away into darkness. The crew cheered, but Jaxon held up his hand. This is only the first strike. The Empire will come for us, harder than before. They will want revenge. As the starfire jumped into hyperspace, a new realization hit the crew. Humans had made a mark. 1 captain, 1 ship, and already the Empire's fear of humanity had begun. But deep in the shadows of space, alien eyes watched. Reports were sent. Plans were being made. And one thing was clear: the Empire would not allow humans to defy them again. Yet, as the stars streaked past, Captain Jaxon Rell smiled. For the first time in years, humanity had hope. And hope, he knew, was a weapon more powerful than any fleet. The first strike was just the start. The galaxy was no longer quiet. Humans were no longer silent. Captain Jaxon Rell and the Starfire had made the first strike, and the Empire's attention now focused entirely on him. But even the bravest captain cannot fight alone. Deep in a hidden sector, Jaxon met with the small human rebellion, smugglers, merchants, and defected pilots who had refused the Empire's taxes for years. They were wary, rough around the edges, but their eyes held the same fire as Jackson's. "Captain Rell," said one of the leaders, a tall woman with a scar across her cheek, "you've angered the Empire. They will hunt every human ship, and soon. Why should we help you?" Jaxon smiled, calm but firm. "Because if we don't fight now, humanity will never be free. We either rise together, or we all fall under their rules. I'd rather fight with you than surrender alone." The rebels exchanged glances. Finally, the leader nodded. "Then we fight. But trust is thin, Captain. The Empire has eyes everywhere." Jaxon knew this. He always had. Humans had learned to expect betrayal. He assigned small teams to monitor the trade routes, to warn ships, to protect the weak. And for a time, things worked. Human fleets started moving again, moving boldly through space, carrying supplies, carrying hope. Then came the warning. One night, Mara reported strange transmissions. "Captain. I don't like this. Someone's been following us. Not just spies, someone knows our every move." Jaxon frowned, leaning over the console. "Who?" "We don't know yet," Mara said. "But I intercepted this signal, it's encrypted with Imperial codes." A chill ran down Jackson's spine. The Empire had spies among them. Perhaps even in the rebellion. The very next day, during a routine supply run, the ambush happened. A human convoy was attacked, not by the Empire directly, but by a fleet pretending to be human rebels. They had stolen their markings, their signals, their uniforms. Confusion reigned. Ships fired on each other. Some were destroyed before the truth was realized. Jackson's jaw tightened. "There's a traitor," he muttered. "One of our own is feeding them information." Mara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Captain, how do we find out who it is?" Jackson's mind raced. He could not afford panic. He could not afford distrust to spread. The rebellion was fragile, and the Empire would take advantage of every weakness. Then came the revelation. A message hidden in the code of the intercepted transmissions, a single signature he recognized. A human name. One he trusted. One who had fought alongside him from the start. Jaxon felt his chest tighten. Betrayal was a knife in the back, and now it had cut the heart of their fight. He gathered his crew. "Listen," he said, voice calm but sharp, "the Empire has infiltrated us. One of our closest allies has turned. But we will not falter. We will not break. We adapt. We fight smarter, faster, and harder. And we will expose this traitor before the Empire can use them to destroy us." Suspense gripped the crew. Who could it be? Every glance felt like a question, every word a potential clue. Fear and tension mixed with hope, because Jaxon knew the humans' greatest strength was their cleverness. As the Starfire jumped to hyperspace, Captain Rell stared at the stars. Somewhere in the rebellion, the traitor watched. Somewhere in the Empire, plans were being made. And somewhere out there, humanity's future waited, uncertain, dangerous, but alive. Jaxon whispered to himself, a vow more than a statement: no one will stop us. Not traitors. Not empires. Humanity will rise. The betrayal was only the beginning. The next battle would not be fought with weapons alone, but with trust, strategy, and the courage to strike when the Empire least expected it. And Captain Jaxon Rell would lead the charge. The galaxy had shifted. Every human ship, every rebel pilot, and every merchant fleet knew the Empire was watching. Captain Jaxon Rell and the Starfire had become the symbol of resistance, but symbols alone could not win wars. Action was needed. The plan was daring. The Empire's main tax command station, an enormous fortress orbiting the mining planet of Zereth Prime, controlled trade across 3 major sectors. If Jaxon could take it down, humanity would not only survive, it would strike fear into the Empire itself. "Captain," Mara said as the Starfire approached the outer perimeter, "this is their most guarded station. There's no room for mistakes. One wrong move." "I know," Jaxon interrupted. His eyes scanned the holographic map. "Which is why we won't fight them head-on. That's what they expect. We'll use their own fear against them." The Starfire split into smaller attack pods. Each pod carried explosives, hacking tools, and decoys designed to mimic large fleets. The Empire had thousands of ships, but humans had speed, cleverness, and unpredictability, things no algorithm could predict. As the pods darted through asteroid fields and energy mines, the Empire's defenses flared to life. Laser beams cut through space, catching pods like flies in a net. But Jaxon's plan was precise. The decoys drew the majority of the fire, while the real pods slipped unnoticed toward the station's power cores. Inside the station, alarms screamed. Alien officers barked orders in panic. "Shields at maximum. Interceptors, intercept." But every interceptor met a fake target. Confusion spread. Then came the moment of truth. Jaxon activated the pods. Explosions rippled through the command station, knocking out power grids and communication hubs. Human ships that had been hiding in the shadows swooped in to disable remaining defenses. The Empire was stunned. A single captain, one ship, and a handful of clever rebels had caused chaos beyond their expectation. But the battle was not over. A massive Imperial dreadnought, larger than any human ship, emerged from hyperspace. Its energy cannons glowed ominously, and every human ship knew that if it fired, their fleet could be wiped out in minutes. "Captain!" Mara shouted. "We can't face that directly." Jaxon's lips curled into a confident smile. "Then we don't face it directly. We outsmart it." Using the station's damaged power grid, Jaxon tricked the dreadnought's targeting systems. Its sensors kept locking onto decoys, while the real human ships moved like shadows around it. Then, using a hidden asteroid belt, Jaxon led the dreadnought into a trap. Mines previously planted by the rebellion detonated. The dreadnought shuddered, sparks flying across its hull. Systems failed. Slowly, it drifted powerless, a giant wreck floating in space. The human fleet cheered, but Jaxon did not relax. The Empire would retaliate. They always did. As the smoke cleared, Jaxon turned to Mara. They relied on fear, not real strength. They assumed humans would obey. But humans are clever. We adapt, we survive, and sometimes, we turn the impossible into victory. The victory was complete, but the cost was clear. Ships had been lost, and some crew members were gone. Yet the morale of humanity soared. Traders who had once cowered before imperial taxes now moved boldly, inspired by the courage of a single captain and his fleet. Far in the distance, unknown to humans, a figure watched. The Empire's greatest commander, Lord Varkon, analyzed the battle. One thought ran through his mind: this is no ordinary human. And this rebellion must be crushed. Jaxon did not know Lord Varkon was coming. He did not know that the next battle would test not just courage, but trust, loyalty, and the limits of human cleverness. But for now, as stars streaked past the Starfire's viewport, one thing was clear: the Empire had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would echo across the galaxy. The turning point had arrived. The battle was over. The Empire's massive command station was in ruins, their dreadnought disabled, and human trade routes free once more. Captain Jaxon Rell stood on the bridge of the Starfire, watching the stars streak past, his crew exhausted but alive. Humanity had survived. Not just survived, they had struck back. Word spread quickly, a single captain, one human fleet, had turned the tide. Merchants cheered, fleets moved freely again, and hope, long buried under fear, was alive. "Captain," Mara said softly, "we did it. The Empire, they're retreating." Jaxon nodded. Victory was theirs, but he knew the fight was far from over. The Empire had not forgiven, not forgotten. Somewhere, commanders were planning, strategizing, and waiting for the next chance to strike. Humans had won this battle, but the war was ongoing. Despite the looming threat, there was celebration. Humans danced in the streets of their trade hubs, merchants raised glasses, and fleets shone like silver threads across space. Even those who had doubted Jaxon's plan now praised him, their voices carrying across radio channels, the captain who defied the Empire. Yet amid the joy, Jaxon stayed vigilant. He had learned long ago that freedom could be fragile, even for humans. Alliances had to be strong, loyalty tested, and every decision carefully weighed. The rebellion would not survive if complacency crept in. A message arrived from a distant sector. It was encrypted, unfamiliar, but the signature was unmistakable: Lord Varkon. The Empire's greatest commander had not given up. He warned of a new fleet, larger and faster than any human ship, moving quietly toward the core trade sectors. Jaxon read the message, then turned to Mara. "They think this is the end. But it's just the beginning." Mara swallowed. "Then what do we do, Captain?" Jaxon smiled faintly, eyes gleaming. "We prepare. Humans survive by thinking faster, moving smarter, and never underestimating their own strength. We will meet them, not with fear, but with courage." As the Starfire jumped to hyperspace, the stars stretched into lines of light, carrying humans toward new adventures, new challenges, and new victories. Jaxon knew that the galaxy had seen what one determined human could do. The Empire had been humbled, not by numbers or weapons, but by ingenuity, bravery, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. And somewhere beyond the next jump, waiting in the dark corners of space, other challenges waited. Pirates, rival aliens, mysterious signals, new threats, new adventures. But Jaxon was ready. "Set course for uncharted space," he ordered. "Let's see what humanity can really do." The crew braced as the Starfire surged forward. Stars became streaks, and the vast galaxy opened before them. It was full of danger, yes, but also full of opportunity. For the first time in centuries, humans were not just surviving, they were leading. Captain Jaxon Rell looked out at the infinite darkness, a smile on his face. He knew that whatever the Empire, or anyone else, threw at humanity next, they would rise. Always. Because humans were clever, daring, and unstoppable. And one captain had proven it. The galaxy would never forget the day one human turned the impossible into victory.